It's a gorgeous space, and I don't know, Ananda, if you have anything about how you achieved getting this space in your talk today. Okay, so I'm going to let you say your story, okay? Because it's a great story and fits into Unity stuff so well. So we're delighted to have you. But as you can see, there's a house, several acres behind us is water and trees and birds. And as I mentioned in the beginning, lots of animals and wildlife, beautiful trails here. It's a lovely spot. And Nihal was connected with the center and connected with Unity. He got us all connected together. So we have been out here several times in the Unity Kitchener group to do some special events with the center, which has been awesome, and use their lovely outdoor spaces to have a picnic. And it's been really, really lovely. So thank you so much again for your center, because it's a beautiful place to be able to meet, and we're delighted to be able to do so. Thank you. I'll introduce our speaker now. Our speaker is the Venerable Kalubowila Ananda Thero. Here is his quick bio that was in our newsletter this week. Ananda transitioned from a successful career in chemical engineering and entrepreneurship to become a Buddhist monk in 2018. He explored meditation and philosophy under the guidance of various Buddhist monks and Vedic scholars. Currently, he serves as the resident monk and director of the Waterloo Wellington Buddhist Monastery, and he offers Buddhist discourse and meditation to promote mindfulness and spiritual growth. It's my honor and privilege to invite you up to the microphone and camera. Thank you so much for being here.
So thank you, everyone, and thank you, Marilyn. And as it was mentioned, that I think the association between Unity Kitchener and Waterloo Wellington Buddhist Monastery and Meditation Center, which is a bit of a long name, so let me shorten it by calling it the Lake Monastery. It goes on even before it was a lake, I think, right? We were at a different location, and there was a previous abbot. He connected Unity with the Lake Monastery, and it's been wonderful. And I'm very happy to host this space for spiritual activities. We have numerous spiritual activities, and in fact, I start meeting Cheryl more often with the interfaith work I do with Interfaith Grand River. So it's been the same community, wonderful community, and there are so many nice volunteer organizations who are doing the same thing and promoting this solidarity and unity. So thank you again, and I'm very glad to see that there's a hybrid of Ottawa community, which is really nice. So again, Barry's Lake is a protected, environmentally sensitive policy area, which is the sort of highest rating a wetland can get in the Ontario system. So it has beavers, deers, 187 documented bird species, from sandhill cranes who are migrating to all sorts of tundra swans, which are really big, 8-feet wingspan. So a lot of animals you will notice. So I think I have about 20 minutes to go on. Okay, just remind me of the time. So I think the topic for today is the distinction between spirituality and religion or dogma. And before I start that, I think all our thoughts are predominantly shaped by the exposure that we get in our early childhood, early periods of life. So let me start about saying my background. Usually it's the custom for the monks to become ordained at a very quite young age, like age 10, 13, 12. But I became a monk when I was 35. So I was absolutely an opposite of a monk in my previous life, completely different. But my education, I was born to a Buddhist family, and I come from Sri Lanka as well. I don't know, was it a coincidence or is it because of me, the Sri Lanka song of played? I come from Sri Lanka. And when I was growing up, I was born to a Buddhist family, but I had Catholic education, Christian education. So I went to this wonderful college called St. John Bosco, which is very colonial style, you know, old buildings, and went for the morning prayers every day. So very Catholic education. And then this was around the first 5 years of my life, 5 years of my schooling. I had a wonderful teacher who was a Muslim. And because my mom was pregnant with my younger brother, she used to take me home and keep her at her place, babysit for some time, and then send me home after a little while. So then I got exposed to Buddhism at home, Christianity and Catholicism at school, and Islam at my teacher's house during the Ramadan period. During all those, she was teaching me Quran. So I knew the Abrahamic religions, I knew Buddhism. And then at the age or the grade 4, I had to come to Colombo, which is the capital. I was in the middle of the country, it's central Sri Lanka. So I had to come to the city, the capital city, and my aunt, whom I stayed at, my aunt's husband was the secretary of the Communist Party. So then I got exposed to Marx and Engels, which is very different. And then I remember reading the books of Engels and Marx, which had 44 or 43 volumes, where they discuss about the rising of industrialization and Bertrand Russell, Friedrich Nietzsche, separating the secular states and all that, and communism. So by that age, I was pretty sure that there's a lot of ideologies in the world, and I did not find myself in any of those to be called or put a label saying I am that. So by that age, I was very agnostic by the grade 5. And since then, I sort of called myself, when Facebook started, in fact, you could tell what religious belief you have. There was no option for agnosticism. The only option was atheistic. So I kept it as atheist, but it was really agnostic and a sort of skeptic view. The fundamental reason being I was exposed to all the religions. And I sort of knew the Bible story, I knew the story of the Buddhism, Jataka stories. So then it went on. And my life was not about being affiliated religiously, but then I was doing so many other things. I started off in engineering, I worked in oil and gas, then I went into marketing and then starting a few businesses. And then I got into social entrepreneurship. I started a movement called Skill to Work, where we started helping young kids transition from school to work. So it's called Skill to Work and all that. Now, while all that is happening, unknowingly, I was very spiritual. Now, if I tell you my spiritual activities I did, a normal religious person would say, well, that is far from religion. So I used to dance ballroom back in the day. Now, you might think ballroom is just a dance, but it's very meditational. That 4 minutes of waltz or quick step, you are just in the flow, completely disconnected from everything else, and you are very meditative. And my other hobby was camping. I had a tent ready, a jeep to go to the wildlife every month or so. So when I go there and then sit with one friend or sometimes all by myself, it's pretty much a silent meditation retreat in a jungle. And I didn't know that. And then the last thing I did was surfing, surfing on the different beaches in Bali, Indonesia, in Sri Lanka, in the Philippines. So when you do that, you find that surfing is also something that really keep you in the moment, in the flow state, and you're completely disconnected from all that. So I then understood that religion and spirituality are very two different things. And then I'm going to tell you a little more, starting from the differences. So when I wanted to become more spiritual in my life, I found Buddhism perfect because there are two versions of Buddhism. One version is very non-dogmatic, which is based on self-actualization and finding out who you are. Whereas we have the other version, which is very religious. So I will ask Debbie to go on to our first slide. I wanted to explain a little on the differences, or rather the difference between a religion and spirituality. But then first, let's try to understand what is a religion and what's the need of a religion. So if Debbie could just click, click, click until we have the last part. That's it. Okay. So let me start with this is called a stupa. It's a Buddhist structure. If you go to Thailand, Cambodia, Sri Lanka, you will find these structures everywhere. It's a beautiful structure, quite tall also, like a pyramid, but circular in shape. But I could have taken a pyramid to explain. You have Maslow's pyramid of hierarchy and all that. The point is, when people associate a religion, a lot of people associate the cultural element of the religion, which is different from one geography to the other geography. For example, I've been to Philippines many times. So the Roman Catholicism in Italy or Europe is very much different to the Catholicism which is in the Philippines. It's predominantly a Catholic country, 85% Roman Catholics, but the Catholicism takes the shape of that country. And the Buddhism in Sri Lanka is very different to Buddhism in China, for example. So the rituals we do are also very different. So this is Lake Monastery. 2 kilometers down here in Blair Road, we have a Lao temple. The rituals we do at the Lava temple are different to the rituals which are done at this monastery. So I often find that there's a huge cultural layer which is associated with any religion. So it might look very different, with different colors, different shapes, different symbolism in that. However, in any religion or within any denominations of a religion, you find that there exists a therapeutic layer where people come to the temple when they are temple, church, synagogue, mosque. When there's something wrong in your life, when you are going through a hard time, when you need some solace and peace, you come to a temple, mosque, prayer, and do be in some meditation prayer, or even talk to a monk, talk to a father. And then find that therapy, the therapeutic solace. So I find it's more closer in the denominations or within religions than the cultural layer. The cultural layer might look very different, but when it comes to therapy, it takes the same form. But then further up you go, which is the philosophical layer. I'll take Buddhism, for example. There's the Theravada tradition of Buddhism where I belong to. So the monks wear this type of a robe. Then there's Mahayana tradition. You will find Dalai Lama of the Tibetan Mahayana tradition. And there's Vajrayana tradition, so many denominations of Buddhism. But the philosophical Buddhism gets much closer. And then apart from that, now philosophy can be just academic exercise and armchair philosophy, or even something further than that based on self-actualization. So where the self-actualization is, the Buddhahood or the enlightenment has to be same for all these denominations. So it sort of converges into one point. And I say that even if we take Abrahamic religions, for example, Islam, Judaism, and Christianity might look very different in the cultural layer, very different culturally. But therapeutically, they get closer. Philosophically, they even get closer. In fact, you find that they're stemming from the father Abraham. So you find that same thing within any religion. And now, why the distinction between these two is when Buddha was born 2,500 years ago. Let me get to the next slide as well, Devi. I will tell you a bit of history of Oriental philosophies. Again, Debbie, if you can click, click, click until you reach the last one. That's it. Okay. So this is a story you find in India about Hinduism. Now, there's no one religion called Hinduism. It's a compilation of many different ideologies, sometimes even very contrasting ideologies. But the common belief is that a long, long time ago, we don't know when, there's no archaeological or historical evidence of that. Let's say 15,000 years ago, there was this person called Adiyogi, or the Lord Shiva, who came to the world with all the knowledge of enlightenment and all the knowledge of science, astrology, medicine, whatever. And then he started imparting that knowledge to his 7 disciples called the rishis or sages, 7 rishis. And then it went on. So there was a fantastic period where that knowledge of enlightenment or liberation or emancipation was alive. But then it came to this post-Vedic period, which is about 3,500 years from now, where people completely forgot those words. The words he had about emancipation and liberation just boiled down to mere chants, where people did not understand the meaning of that chant, but they were just chanting it. And it did not make any sense. And naturally, when someone has something which is valuable, of course, you can make great economic profit out of that. So then came a set of priests in the old world. They started selling this product to people. People have a need, they are heartbroken, they have issues, or they want to gain more power. Let's say that there's a king who wanted to become a bigger king, gain more political power and capture the entire world. There's a particular ritual you could do. And if you do that, you might become the biggest king of the world. And it, of course, comes at a cost. There's a business model in that, and then you can sell it. So then it boiled down to just a very transactional sort of a thing. There was no spirituality in it. It just people come with the money, and then you get your product. And I find this cycle all over in all religions, period. Absolutely, there's no religion which is free of that. Maybe except Sikhism, because Sikhism, Baha'i faith, they're quite new in the world. I even, in fact, asked some of my Sikh friends and Baha'i friends, because they are just in the first 500, 300, 200 years of their evolving. They're still quite not there. But we find all the other religions in the world that going through this phase where the priest or the people who are attached that establishment makes it a more money-making business rather than a place of worship, faith, or spirituality. Not the founder. Founder's intentions were very pure, but then when it goes through 1,000 years of change, it is very usual. And I find it all the time, like if you want to go to heaven, you have to give $100. But if you give $1,000, you can get a better spot in heaven, sort of a thing. You can see that everywhere. So then during this period, 3,500 years ago, after the post-Vedic period, there came this set of people who said, this is not spirituality. This is not what the old Adi Yogi or the old sages taught us. They taught us they must have told us something quite different, which is different to what is being practiced right now. So let us take this moment. We are going to go out, leave our usual daily activities, and commit full time as ascetic, monastic people. And then we are going to go in search of these words of wisdom and these old ancient practices. So that's the beginning of this tradition. The robe I'm wearing is coming from that tradition. It even predates Buddhism. So these ascetics were called the Upanishads. So the Upanishads were some of the first ascetics who broke out of that religious model and then went in search of what is emancipation, what does it mean to be alive, what is death, what is love, what is compassion. So they went on seeking on those self-actualization questions. Now, when that happened, of course, there was a lot of some people who were leading the religious establishments. They did not like it naturally, like how they crucified Jesus, like how they initially reacted against Prophet Muhammad. They did not like these Upanishads very much, but then the whole world went through this very enlightening age, where this period from 2,500 years ago to 3,000, the whole world was called the axial age, where while Buddha, Jaina Mahavira, and so many other Upanishads were coming up during this period, in the Far East Asia, Confucianism, Taoism was coming up, Confucius was alive. And then on the far west, there was Plato, Aristotle, Socrates coming up. So the whole world sort of went through a Renaissance period, like the Renaissance point version 1 at that age, and it's called the axial age. So there's a lot of spiritual enlightenment, spiritual awakening. People started speaking more philosophically rather than religiously. Now let me get to the second part. Maybe we can get rid of the slides now, Debbie. And that's all the slides I have. So, so then after this period, what happened was there was a lot of talk about what is being spiritual. So then the rest of the slide says the all different ideologies people went into. In fact, if we look at the major religions of the world right now, all these religions are stemming from those philosophies back in the day, 2,500 years ago during the axial age. And now let me bring my talk around the difference between philosophy and dogma. I have this fantastic book of Bertrand Russell, The History of Western Philosophies. And in the first chapter, he covers how philosophies and dogmas are different. Are you aware of the difference between philosophies and dogmas? I'll give you a quick example. Philosophies, for example, they say, are a set of questions where there is no definitive answer. Philosophies are a set of questions where there is no definitive answer. Is the world bound by fate, or is the world deterministic, or do we truly have free will? Now that's an age-old debate which is still not resolved. There's a question, but there's not one answer. It's a debate. Dogmas, on the other hand, is an answer where you can't question. So that's the difference. You can't usually question the holy book. You have to believe in it. Philosophies are a set of questions where there's no one answer. Dogmas are a single answer where you can't question. Usually it's like that. So while that being the main difference between between the spirituality or philosophy and dogma. Now let me connect it to Buddhism. So the version of Buddhism I always follow and I see is very non-dogmatic. There's no a particular set of beliefs that you need to. There's no precursor like that. You have to start with a set of beliefs because it's about trying to explore yourself. In order to explore yourself, in order to be mindful, in order to be meditate, you don't need to have a set of beliefs. You are in fact trying to look into what your beliefs are and then trying to understand what makes you who you are, because our beliefs makes us who we are. Now some people could say that this monk is a Sri Lankan monk, but that's if I am bound by the notion that I am Sri Lankan. So to take a quick example, the Barry's Lake, this side of the Barry's Lake is owned by the Cambridge city, and the majority is owned by the North Dumfries city. There's a line between at the edge of the lake. One part of a small chunk, about 2 acres, is owned by the Cambridge. The majority of 80 acres is owned by the North Dumfries, and there's a line right in the middle of the lake where you can see on maps, Google Maps, and everything. But I find beavers, butterflies, fish, they don't know that. Right? What is Canada? It's very weird that we have Alaska, which is not part of Canada or Russia, and it's United States. So we find all these conventional realities that we as a group or individually try to believe in, and then it becomes a reality. So there's a distinction, a particular word in Buddhism for this: a conventional reality and an ultimate reality. So it definitely does not fall under the category of ultimate reality. It's just a convention. More people start believing in it, it becomes more real. So when we look into our beliefs, we have a lot of conventional beliefs, which are not truly through our five senses for our inferential knowledge, but through our belief system. So it's very imperative that we understand our belief system, because it is sort of the filter that we are wearing all the time and looking at the world through those filters, the colored glasses. So now, again, coming back to the difference of spirituality and religion. Back in my childhood or my young self, I was doing an experiment of spirituality. It did not sit in under any sort of religion, because religions would refuse people having too much fun. No religion likes people having a lot of fun. In fact, if you look at all the commandments of the precepts, they say don't do it. You are going to end up somewhere else, which is not good for you. So I find religions sometimes are, again, with all due respect to all religions, I completely understand the need of religion. That's why I shared it in the first slide. I come across people who are really desperate, who are really heartbroken and frustrated and depressed. They can't understand the religion, or they can't understand the philosophies as a neuronormal person or a person who's in a normal condition would. Everyone goes through these phases in life. And I find religion is sometimes like a set of crutches we use. You don't use it when you're healthy, but when you're unhealthy, you have to use it. So again, this is not to disregard religions. We need religion as a function in the society. Death rituals, for example. Humans did not start it. The Neanderthals started it. 120,000 years ago or 80,000 years ago, there was a shaman who was performing death rituals for the Neanderthal dead beings. So this is an age-old tradition, and we need to acknowledge it, respect it, and even cherish it. It's beautiful. It gives us the diversity of the world. But then again, there's also another sector called spirituality, which has nothing to do with this fear-based approach. You're not afraid of your afterlife or what will happen to your afterlife and all that. It's not based on fear, and it's not bound by rituals or traditions. You have your freedom to go to a library, like we saw the Unity Library on the YouTube. You can go there, pick any meditation you like, and then practice that meditation. But often you find in religions, you can't do that. You have to stick to the particular religion. And there are over 4,700 religions in the world. Every religious person, every believer of that would say, my religion is the most correct religion in the world. So that's the same dilemma I had growing up. Everyone at school, at home, at my teachers, at the Communist Party, they were saying, we are the correct people and we describe the world the best. I found that everyone has flows, and these are just a lot of ideologies. Our spiritual exercise should be to inquire, not to disregard, not to blindly follow, but to inquire and then make it our personal experience. So, again, the main differences between the organized religions and spirituality is that we find religions have to be very structured. They are around rituals, they are around cultures, and there's a hierarchy in that. There's a set of words you have to do, and you have to opt. But spirituality does not limit yourself to do anything of that nature. And again, if you go to Bertrand Russell, you find that in describing religions and dogmas and philosophies, you find dogmas to be a little more authoritative. There's a little bit of hegemonic nature of that, where you come from a special place and there are masters and not slaves, but teachers and followers. But in Buddhism, there's this wonderful phrase called Kalyana Mitra, which means noble friend. In Buddhism, although we find the Zen masters and all that, the true idea of Buddhism is just we have great friends, not master-teacher relationship, but a friend relationship where we are equal. A teacher can learn from a student as much as a student learns from the teacher. So it's a two-way street, right? So I find that, and I can really resonate with what I find in the Buddhist scripture, because Buddha was not there for the organized religions, but then there's always the cost of standing up for not religious spirituality, but it comes with a cost. Jesus had to get crucified because he did not want to be put in a particular category. He was just compassionate, helping people. Buddha, although Buddha came from a slightly more advantageous place, being a princess himself and being born to a royal family, and of that he was slightly advantageous, but he had his fair share of atrocities by these organized religions. In fact, he was standing up against a lot of ideologies that people are good or bad based on their caste that they were born into. Buddha stood up against it. No person is good or bad based on their birth or their birthright. It's how you think, it's how you act. That's what makes you noble or untouchable, not your caste or religion. So, because he criticized that notion which comes from a holy book, at his deathbed, Buddha had to walk quite a long journey. 80 years old Buddha, people in that area, the priest, they said people do not give water to Buddha. So Buddha could not find water at his deathbed. So there was no house which was willing to give water to Buddha. And then his closest disciple, whose name was Ananda, which is the same name of mine, he had to go to a hoof print where there was some murky water, and Buddha had to drink that murky, muddy water at his deathbed. And that's the cost that any spiritual leader has to undergo for criticizing, saying bad things about religion. But then the world has changed a lot. There's a lot of connectivity. People from Ottawa, from far end of the world can be linked now. And I think that's a wonderful thing. People are more open to ideas. They are thinking more openly. And in that note, I would conclude. If you don't have, if you have questions, please ask me the questions. But the basic difference again between religion and spirituality. Spirituality is of more personal nature. You're trying to figure out where do you fit in the world, what is your true beliefs, who am I really? Because we learn so many things about what the world is, we don't learn about who we are. There's no teaching about who we are. In fact, to learn about who we are, we don't need the help of the others. We need the help mostly our mindfulness. How aware are we to our conscious experience? That's what we mostly need. Of course, we need positive feedback or negative, positive, constructive criticism from the others as well. That's very much needed. But it's mostly to do with us. Religions, on the other hand, it's more fixated on an external power. It could be karma, it could be a higher power, it could be something which is more external to you. Spirituality tends to be more a personal journey. Religions come with a more structured, organizational, hierarchical, dogmatic, hegemonic sort of a view, whereas spirituality is for you to explore. It's free. You can pick and choose whatever which resonates more with you. And then I will conclude this by saying again that the true Buddhist way of achieving emancipation or enlightenment is through your own personal experience. So there's this Zen quote saying, if we are becoming spiritual, when the student is ready, the master will appear. I don't know if you have heard it. When the student is ready, the teacher will appear. But then it goes to the next part. When the student is truly ready, the teacher disappears. Because you are your own teacher. Your own emancipation has to come through your own enlightening. It is not someone else's enlightenment. It's your personal spirituality. And in fact, the word spirituality has to do something with spirit. Spirit or the essence, which also has a synonym with self. So the exploration of self is called the spirituality. Exploration about the beliefs of other people, our forefathers, our previous generations is called religion. Again, with all due respect to all religions, this is what I see the distinction between spirituality and religion. And I stand for spirituality always. So that's about the distinctions briefly. Yeah. Meditation. Okay. So when we go to the meditation, let me teach you about this meditation called the compassion meditation. Now, compassion meditation is a nice idea. One day, a friend told me, love is not a noun, it's a verb. Love is not something that you conceptually think about, but it's something that you do. It's a verb. Compassion is also not a conceptual philosophical idea that we think about. It's something we really have to do right now, right? So this I'll explain you during the meditation. So let's close our eyes if you are comfortable, relax, and then sit comfortably. Listen to that beautiful music. Thank you very much for that. It's really beautiful. Let's enjoy that. Now let's listen to the silence. It was beautiful. So we'll bring our attention to our nostrils, our chest, shoulders, nasal passage, where we can feel our breath. We can feel the flow of air through our nostrils, nasal passage. Let's bring our attention to this very subtle movement in our abdomen as we inhale and exhale. Relax your abdomen as we inhale. And let's try to gently, comfortably squeeze out that air as we exhale. And let's exhale from our diaphragms, not from our nose. Let's take a deep breath in. Completely and slowly empty our breath. Make sure to completely empty our breath. Deep breath in again. Exhale completely. I'm going to bring your attention to this idea. This is coming from Pali language. The Buddhist scripture is written in Pali language. Aham avero homi. Right now, this moment, not for a permanent period, momentarily, for right now, like I completely emptied my breath, I'm going to completely empty my mind of any anger, any resentment, grudge, animosity, hatred I harbor inside me. From these heaviest feelings of anger, ill will, to the slightest feelings of dislikeness, irritation, annoyance, I'm going to empty my mind of any of those thoughts I have towards any person, any being, any situation right now at this moment. Aham avero homi. My mind is completely empty and free of anger, hatred, animosity, and dislikeness. I'm going to take the next few seconds to completely empty my mind of any fear that I have about the future, my life, my health, the well-being of my loved ones, the environment, the world. Only for a fraction of a second, I'm going to let go of any fear, any anxiety about the future right now, only for this moment. Abhya pacho homi. Right now, for this moment, my mind is completely free of fear. I'm going to take the next few seconds to completely empty my mind of the compulsive nature of my mind, the addictive nature of my mind, the habits, cravings, which sometimes can bother me. My mind, only for this fraction of a second, is completely empty of compulsion, of craving, and addiction. Anigo homi. Aham avero homi. My mind is free of anger, animosity. Abhyapacho homi. My mind is free of fear and anxiety. Anigo homi. My mind is free of craving and addiction. Right now, I'm enjoying the most peaceful and the blissful nature of my mind, which is luminous, which is pure, the best version of my mind. Sukhi attanam pariharami. Let's join our palms together in front of our hearts. And let's take this moment to wish all the beings to my right, to my left, in front of me, behind me, on the Zoom, in this room, in this city, in this country, in this continent, in this world, in this universe, in this realm, in all realms, in all dimensions, may all the beings, may their minds be free of anger, may their minds be free of fear, may their minds be free of compulsion, may they truly experience the blissful nature of their mind. Sabbe satta bhavantu sukhitatta. Let's end our meditation by saying sadhu 3 times. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. You will slowly open your eyes. So that's compassionate meditation. Thank you to all of you.